So let's talk about Joseph Conrad's Heart of Darkness. Now, if you think this is just some adventure story about a boat trip up a river in the Congo, you're in for a surprise. It's something else entirely, something way, way more unsettling. Okay, let's unpack that. What does it actually mean? Well, it tells us that the real journey in this book isn't on a map. It's a psychological one. It's a deep, disturbing dive into what happens to the, civilized mind when you push it to its absolute breaking point. And really, this is the question that beats at the heart of the story. What happens when all the rules, all the people, all the things in society that tell you who you are just vanish? What do you find looking back at you when there's nothing but silence? All right, so our journey begins. We're about to peel back the layers of this story, and I mean really get to the core ideas, the ones that don't just criticize an empire, but maybe human nature itself. First things first, we have to talk about the setting. Because in Heart of Darkness, the jungle isn't just a bunch of trees. Oh no, it is an active, hostile character, and it is waging a psychological war on every single European who dares to step foot in it. There's actually a term for this: atmospheric alienation. The idea is that the physical world, the crushing heat, the blinding fog, that impenetrable forest, it's actively attacking the internal world of the characters. The environment itself is trying to break them down. And look how it works. That fog, it's not just weather. It's a symbol for how little these men actually know. The jungle itself seems to mock their sense of logic, proving it totally useless. And this constant grinding pressure, it just wears away their moral certainty until, poof, all that's left is raw primal instinct. Okay, so if the natural world is this hostile, terrifying force, what about the human system trying to operate inside of it? Well, it turns out it's just as broken. Conrad shows us that the whole colonial project isn't some noble mission. It's a completely absurd, greedy machine. And that brings us to this idea of the imperial machine. This is not some well-oiled operation bringing progress to the world. No, what Conrad shows us is a chaotic, nonsensical, and, in the end, self-destructive engine that runs on one thing and one thing only: the mindless hunt for profit. And this image from the book just says it all. I mean, can you picture it? Marlowe is on his journey, and he sees this massive warship just firing its cannons into the jungle. At nothing. There's no enemy in sight. It's loud, it's violent, and it's completely pointless. A perfect symbol for the whole colonial mess. And when you look inside the machine, it's just rotten. The company is a disaster of bureaucracy that does not care one bit about human life. Everyone is just obsessed with getting more ivory. The bottom line here is that this system doesn't build anything. It just consumes. It eats up the land, the colonized people, and the colonizers themselves. So, the outside world is hostile, the system is a complete farce. So what happens to the individual's mind in the middle of all this? This, my friends, is where the story turns inward and where it gets truly terrifying. And that brings us to the core concept of this whole explainer: the primal mirror. This is a huge idea. It's the moment when the European man looks out at the savage natives and he doesn't see a different kind of being. He sees a horrifying reflection of himself, of his own ancient, raw, pre-civilized soul. This breaks it down perfectly. On one side, you've got the civilized self. It's this fragile identity, right? It's built by European society. It thinks it's special. But that primal mirror, it shows the truth. There's this shared primitive root. Marlowe even feels this weird kinship with the drums in the jungle, and he realizes that civilized veneer is terrifyingly thin. And all of this, the broken world, the broken system, the broken self, it all leads to one character: Kurtz. He's the man who stared directly into that mirror, and it shattered him. He is the final, terrifying stage of this psychological journey. The absolute horror that Kurtz discovers is what some analysts call the metaphysical void. And what is that? It's the terrifying realization that when you strip away society, law, and God, there might be nothing left inside. No built-in moral compass. Just a huge, terrifying emptiness. Conrad describes it with this just chilling simplicity. When Kurtz, totally free from any European judgment, finally had the chance to really, truly look at his own soul,
He discovered that it had gone completely and utterly mad. Faced with its own total freedom and its own emptiness, his soul just broke. And his famous last words? That's his final judgment. But he's not judging the jungle or the people. He's judging the human soul itself when you strip it bare of all its illusions. That is the horror.
Okay, so let's pull all these threads together. What's the ultimate, inescapable conclusion that Conrad leaves us with? It's that the darkness, it was never really in the Congo to begin with. So, what this all leads to is the brutal realization that the heart of darkness isn't a place on a map. It's inside of us, all of us. It's a fundamental, permanent part of being human that we spend our entire lives trying to paper over with something we call civilization. And this is why the ending is so bleak, so pessimistic. Marlowe makes it back to Europe, sure, but he's no hero who conquered the darkness. He survived by making what's called here a cynical compromise. He chooses to lie. He retreats back into the comfortable, blessed ignorance of his world, because the truth is just too much to bear. Which leaves every single one of us with one final, haunting question. A question that Conrad asked over 100 years ago, and it feels more relevant than ever today. Is our civilization, our morality, our laws, our entire society, is it all just a necessary lie? A story we tell ourselves to keep from staring into that same terrifying void?